Who remembers this guy? It's not supposed to sound like that. Let's take a look inside. If you look at how these are made, this is bailed out. This sets down over top of this, and then they weld it and seal it shut. So let's crack this open. We know inside of this there is oil. And it being oil, if we just cut it open, we're gonna cause a fire. So we'll take some Dawn. That should reduce its flammability so that we can safely cut it open now. So we're going to take this oil and move it down here out of the way so we don't get any sparks in it. Helps when you plug it in. That is not bad for eyeballing it all the way around. Here is what is inside of those compressors. Little spring there to help with vibration. There's where the windings come through. These wires are pretty heavy duty. So there's the top of the compressor wires. From what I can see, it looks like it just sits on another spring on that little peg. Somewhere there, that little peg right there. There's a spring on it. Better look here. Alright, looks like we're going to do this the hard way. I'm going to guess that's part of what's broke. Yeah, that's what I cut off. But there's what was making an awful racket. So there's the other ear I cut off with the Sawzall just now. This little stuff though, this is what broke internally. Let me cut this out of the way. That's what's holding it in there, is that discharge line. Alright, cut through that discharge line. Now everything will come out of there. So there's our compressor cabinet. There's some more of that ring. So the discharge line comes in and loops up around as one solid piece up into there. And there's the top of our compressor, which is now just an empty hole. Anyone who's familiar with a camshaft, pistons, this would have been over here on this one. And as this spun, as this electric motor, you can tell it's a motor. You can see inside that suction port, you can see the windings of the motor. So it just spun, and these would spin. So that would have been attached to an arm that would have went in there, and you can see the shaft that it would have pulled that arm back up. That arm would have stayed in motion with this one, like this one right here is doing. It's going down, coming up and around. Sort of like on the old style trains, the locomotion, the wheels. I don't believe I have any sockets like that, so that's about as far as we can take it apart, but that is definitive answer. Grease and all. Now, a few of you asked a good question. Is the compressor running backwards? Now, had this been a scroll compressor and you hear that sound, most likely. She's running backwards. But with this being a reciprocating compressor, it's just pumping the pistons up and down. It doesn't care if the motor is spinning clockwise or counterclockwise. That piston's still only going to go up and down. So phase and rotation doesn't matter on recips unless it also has an oil pump with it. That is 3-phase. I've not come across any of those around here, but I know they do exist. But yes, absolutely, if you hear that sound, you're working on the scroll, try to reverse 2 of the leads, any 2, and that'll change the rotation of the motor inside the scroll. We'll just switch any of those 2. That sounds way better. So I'm going to quickly clean up my mess here, which brings me to my little oil catch. What have you guys done with your old refrigerant tanks? Don't look at the welding. I just taught myself to weld not too long ago. Still need practice. I just cut a cap out, cut the cap in half, welded on each side. Kind of reminded me like shoulder pads from The Mandalorian. I'd be curious to know what you guys do with your old refrigerant tanks. I just ground all the paint off and just tried to make a bunch of beads on it just to try to get the hang of MIG welding. It's just something I've never bothered doing before, but it's kind of fun. I like it. Hopefully you guys found that entertaining and or educational. See you on the next one.